Hey, this week in preparation for St. Patrick's Day, I'm going to be making a white chocolate pistachio cheesecake. It's green, it's luscious, it's thick, it's rich, and it's the perfect dessert to serve for St. Patrick's Day. So in this cheesecake that I make, this is a recipe from my good friend Helen in New York, from Helen's Fabulous Cheesecake. She taught me this recipe, and it's quite possibly the best cheesecake that I think I've ever had. So I'm honored to be sharing it with you. In the cheesecake is 2.5 pounds of cream cheese, 16 ounces of sour cream, 6 eggs that are already broken and put into a measuring cup. It's really important when you're making this that these ingredients are at room temperature, that they are not cold, because they really all need to blend in very well with each other. It also has vanilla, fresh lemon juice, and a pistachio paste, and you can usually buy a pistachio paste at a gourmet food shop, but today I'm going to make my own, and I'm going to show you how I do that. It's a very easy process. And when it's all mixed, we're going to add in some melted white chocolate to finish it off, and fold that in and pop it in the oven and let it bake. To make pistachio paste, all you really need to do is find some raw shelled pistachios at your grocery store. The greener the better. And you just blanch it in some water with a little bit of sugar in it. It's going to sweeten up the pistachios. It's also going to soften them up so that they can process more easily into a paste. And you probably blanch them for about a minute, maybe a minute and a half, and then rinse them off in the sink and rub them out on a towel, and that will separate all of the skins. Peel the skins off, and then you're ready to make your paste. And all it is putting it into a food processor and grinding it down for quite a while. So normally, as this grinds down, it will turn into chunks, and then it will turn into sort of a fine flour, and then it will turn into a paste. And once it becomes the paste consistency, if you need to loosen it up a little bit just to make it so it's more like a smoother batter, but you don't want it too thin, you would just add a few drops of very warm water to it and continue to process it. So we're going to go ahead and process this and show you the finished product at the end. So we have got this process down to a nice thick paste. It's important that you don't feel any of the nuts in it. You don't want any of that hard texture of the nuts in the cheesecake. So this should be a very, very smooth paste, but it's a little too thick. So I'm going to add about 2 tablespoons of warm water to this, and we'll continue to process it. And so our paste is finished, and look at how nice and smooth our paste has come out. It's nice and green and smooth, and it tastes wonderful, and it smells beautifully. So we're going to reserve this because this is going to get mixed into our batter. We're going to add our softened cream cheese into our bowl. This is going to get processed with the sugar on a medium speed so that it becomes nice and creamy. You don't want any lumps of the cream cheese in your cheesecake. To this, we're going to add 1 cup of sugar and continue to blend it in. You will know at this stage if this is combined good enough, and if there are no more lumps in your cream cheese, you can go on to adding some of your other ingredients. I'm going to give this just another minute to blend, and then we're going to add our eggs to this. And you can see how nice and creamy that is. So to that, we are going to add 1 egg at a time on a very slow speed, just until they're all incorporated and really well mixed in. You don't want to beat this too fast because you don't want to beat air into the eggs in the batter. Again, make sure to intermittently scrape down the sides of your bowl. And you want to get up inside the batter along the bowl as well, because there's usually going to be some cream cheese that's stuck to the bowl down there. With the eggs in, I'm going to add our vanilla and our lemon juice. So it's 1 tablespoon of vanilla. And 2 tablespoons of lemon juice. We're going to scrape down our sides, and then we're going to add our pistachio paste. And you want to make sure you're getting all of the solid cream cheese off the bottom of the bowl. And we are going to add about 1/4 cup of our paste. This is going to give it a really great green color for St. Patrick's Day, but also a really wonderful pistachio flavor. And we've got a really beautiful, very light green color just from our pistachio paste. And the last ingredient that we want to add in is the sour cream. We add this last because you don't want to overmix the sour cream. If you do, it could give it a very cottagey cheese type of a texture, and you don't want that. So you only want to blend this in until it's just fully blended and no more. We have our batter all set, and now we're going to fold in our white chocolate to it. And instead of putting the white chocolate right into the batter, just in case it may seize up, the best practice is to put some of your batter in a separate bowl and add your white chocolate to it. This way, if you screw it up, you're not wasting your whole batter and ruining the whole thing. So we are going to pour in some batter. I'm going to add about 1/2 cup of white chocolate and fold that into that. You want to have more batter than you do chocolate when you're doing this. And then this you can pour right into your larger bowl of batter and fold that in. My trusted assistant here is taking my dishware, and you're just going to lightly fold that in. Make sure that it's fully incorporated throughout. And the key when making this is not to make any one flavor overpowering the other one. So when this is cooked and you bite into it, you want to taste some of the white chocolate, and you also want to taste some of the pistachio. I think that's pretty well incorporated. And so now we're going to get ready to put it in our pan so that it can go in the oven. We have our prepared cheesecake pan. This is a professional pan that I like to use, which has a bottom which separates to help unmold the cheesecake. But if you just have a regular springform pan that clips on the side, that'll work just as well. And so that we don't get any water, because we're going to set this into a water bath when we bake it, so that no water comes up in the pan, I'm just going to give it an extra 2 layers of aluminum foil to keep it from taking on any water. And I'm going to fold these up until they go well over the top of the pan. And then I'm going to turn them in on themselves and mold them right at the lip. And I don't want any condensation to get into the cheesecake, so these are just going to get slightly pushed down right below the rim of the cheesecake pan. Again, turning them into themselves. I make sure they're nice and tight to the cake pan. I would also do this if I had a springform pan as well. And inside, we've buttered the inside of the pan, and I've laid down a piece of parchment on the bottom, because when this is done, I'm going to flip it over on its bottom, and I'm going to take that off in order to decorate the cake. I like to use these disposable roasting pans. They work well. I double them so that they have some structure to them. And you're just going to pour your batter in. And your batter should come to about, I would say, 1 inch from the top of the cheesecake pan. Give it a good shake so that you get all the ridges on the top of it down. You want a nice smooth top. If you see any air bubbles, just try to pop them. Before we put the water in the pan, we're going to actually set this in the oven. It's going to prevent any mishaps or accidents from happening to actually carry it full of water over to the oven. So my oven is preheated to 325. Once that's in the oven, I'm going to very carefully pour just regular tepid tap water into the bottom of the pan. It's important to really have a temperature gauge in your oven so that you know exactly how the temperature is regulating inside. This needs a very slow cooking process. You don't want the cheesecake to brown. You want it to cook very slowly. The faster you cook a cheesecake and the more well done you cook a cheesecake is what causes it to crack. And we don't want this to crack, so we're going to cook it very slow. I like to keep track of the temperature in the oven, and if I have to turn it down just a little bit to bring the temperature down, I know that I can do that. It's been a little bit over an hour. We're going to check on our cheesecake and see how it is doing. So I have not opened the oven at all during this process, and just a little bit of poke on it shows me that it's a spongy texture, but it's not wet in the middle. So this cheesecake is done. I'm going to turn the oven off, and I'm going to let this sit in an open oven probably for about another 20 minutes, just to let it cool down some. I'll take it out of the oven. I will remove it from the water bath, and then I will let it cool completely on the counter before putting it in the fridge to refrigerate overnight so that we can go ahead and decorate it tomorrow. Well, our cheesecake is all refrigerated and cooled down, and it's time to decorate it. I have inverted our cheesecake upside down, and we're going to take the bottom off of what will now be the top of the cheesecake. Look how beautiful that is. A nice green cheesecake for St. Patrick's Day. I can't wait to break into that. And all I'm going to do to decorate this is to do a little bit of chopped pistachios that we have left over from when we blanched the pistachios. And I'm just going to do these in a little bit of a ring. around the cheesecake. This is a really great, easy dessert that you can serve to your family or to any guests that you may have coming over for dinner, or even a St. Patrick's Day brunch. You can typically get about 12 slices out of this, 16 if you cut them smaller. And you'll notice I have different size chunks of pistachios because I like a little bit of a finer look, but also some rougher chopped pistachios as well. And just go very slowly around the ring of the cheesecake. You can pick up what's left on the platter after you're done. And I've got some white chocolate here that I have refrigerated. You want to keep this cold because if you don't refrigerate it and chill it a little bit, the heat from your hand is just going to start melting it. But I'm just going to shave this right in the ring of the pistachios. And I'm just going to garnish mine with a little bit of nasturtium leaves from my garden. You should always garnish your platters when you're presenting something to your guests. It makes a really nice presentation and it's very thoughtful. And I've got a few yellow pansies that I'm going to put on the top. And there's a beautiful St. Patrick's Day cheesecake. And so we're going to cut our slice. It's important when you're cutting cheesecake, if you want to have nice clean slices, to have a damp rag on hand to wipe your knife every time you cut a slice. And this will keep the edges of your cheesecake nice and clean. And let's see how this tastes. That is to die for. Thank you so much for joining us this week. I hope you learned something and I hope that I inspired you to go out and make a special dessert for St. Patrick's Day this year. If you ever miss any of our videos, they are on YouTube at Home with Joseph, and you can also follow me on Instagram as well at Home with Joseph. Thanks so much.